The largest category is actually motor insurance because it's a mandatory product.
That's
You get
compulsory.
you get a challan if you don't have insurance. So that is one that people end up buying, the most. That premiums cannot vary across customers. So if Ravi Handa has a 5 lakh rupee policy at say 40 years age, and Amit Chabbra has the same policy at the same age, our premiums cannot be different. The only scenario where premiums can be different is from 10 lakhs to 1 crore, you go in only 1300 rupees for about 40 years age, to adult and a child.
Hmm.
So by buying a base, so the most effective, or the most, I would say, efficient way of increasing your sum insured today is a super top up. And you have to think of it like a hack more than anything else, right?
I have a 5 lakh policy in which, let's say, the room rent limit is 5,000 rupees. I go to a hospital where I am in a room worth 10,000 rupees, just for easier calculations. My actual bill comes out to be 3 lakh rupees. Then I'll probably end up paying 1 lakh 50,000 or half of it
Yes,
out of my pocket.
yes, yes, that's
But
right.
why? It is still under that 5 lakh limit, right? How much health insurance do I need? That's probably the starting point. Should it be 5 lakhs, or should it be 1 crore, or should it be 25 lakhs? Hi everyone, I'm Ravi Handa, host of the AC Fire podcast. On this channel, we talk about financial independence and early retirement. And a huge part of planning for fire is planning for insurance. And to do that, we have today Amit Chabbra with us. Amit is the chief business officer at PolicyBazaar. So if there is anything about insurance, I don't think there would be many other experts who would have the kind of breadth that he has. I believe he has been with PolicyBazaar for close to 8 years now, if I'm not wrong. So welcome, Amit. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ravi. It's a pleasure being here. I've been following you for a very long time. And glad we're doing this. I think very very passionate about insurance. I do. One can look at it like this, that I sell insurance, but I think in general very passionate about creating awareness, because India, I think, is an extremely under penetrated insurance market, and people do stand at a significant risk when it comes to death, disease, and disability. So there's a lot to do, and people are not aware of what kind of insurance they should have. So yeah, so this is something that I love doing, is to create
Fair.
awareness around insurance.
Fair. So my first question to you would be: at Policy Bazaar, you would have huge amounts of data with you. What is the sort of insurance that most Indians are buying? Is it the life insurance policies, or is it the ULIPs, or health insurance takes priority? Could you give us some numbers around that?
Sure. See, in India, if you look at India as a market, the largest category is actually motor insurance because it's a mandatory product.
That's
You get
compulsory.
a challan if you don't have insurance. So that is one that people end up buying, the most, because so the rough estimates are about 70% of cars and about 50% of two wheelers in India are insured. Rest, in spite of it being a mandatory market, still a large part of motor vehicles are not insured. So that is one part. Then you move to voluntary products, and this can be again clubbed into two categories. There is something called protection products, which is largely health insurance and term insurance. These are basically insurance products which protect you from something unforeseen happening. So, for example, if you have a hospitalization, then you want a health insurance policy which provides you coverage, and it covers for your hospitalization cost. So it's a protection from hospitalization.
Fair.
Similarly, term insurance, very simply, is protection against death. So if the earning member in the family passes away, then what happens to the family, because suddenly the income has gone away? So a term insurance policy provides a lump sum benefit to the policyholder's nominees in case the policyholder passes away. Now that is how insurance should be looked at. You buy the mandatory products, and then you buy the protection products, and then you buy savings products. savings products are basically, simply ULIPs, and there are some other categories as well, which help you multiply your income. So you save, and in the long run, you end up making a lot of sort of savings, or like a income out of it. Unfortunately, if you look at how India has been as a market, actually a lot of people have, because of the way the penetration is, a lot of people have ended up buying a lot of LIC policies. So for consumers in general, insurance is synonymous with LIC. A lot of people don't even realize that it's not health insurance, or even term insurance. But LIC policies are largely a combination of protection and savings. And that, to be honest, is is the largest sold product in the country right now. Even now, with all the digitization and all the awareness increase. But the good news is that, that if people are increasingly becoming more and more aware. I think with people like you, being around, there is increasing awareness that health insurance and term insurance are the primary products when it comes to, insurance, because protection is what is required more than savings, and that can sort of become the next step. But still, there are various benchmarks. Typically what is seen is, if you look at a pan India level, you include everybody who's insurable of that age. There are multiple estimates. One estimate is that about 4 to 5% of India is only voluntary insured, which means only those many people have some sort of protection insurance. If you look at core numbers, these numbers were released by the IRDAI last year. So India has about 5.1 crore health insured people right now, out of a population which is about 150 crores roughly. So the percentage ends up being quite small. Term insurance is even smaller as a category, but yeah. So the number that you look at is about 5 crores. But again, just to add, these are the people who have voluntary insurance. So this will not include people who have, say, CGHS insurance or some other form of government provided insurance, or ESI, or now as the government also increases its spread in terms of, the government provided insurance, so that number will be higher. But to the best of estimates, it's typically in the range of about, 15 to 20% of the entire country's population which has some sort of health insurance protection.
Fair. I was talking primarily, from Policy Bazaar's perspective that uh, you from for you as a market, I believe is health insurance the most important market for you, or is term insurance, or is motor insurance? For Policy Bazaar, Policy Bazaar is number one in X, Y, or Z.
See, again, there are multiple lenses to look at. So if
Hmm.
I look at number of customers who are buying insurance, or sort of, buying insurance for the first time, their motor insurance actually is most important, because they are the larger number of consumers who buy a
Hmm.
motor or a two-wheeler insurance policy. If you look at value for us as Policy Bazaar, their life insurance and health insurance are much bigger, because they have a larger ticket size. They have much better renewability as well. So in that sense, health insurance and life insurance end up being, the more value accretive businesses.
Fair, fair. So I believe, when it comes to looking at options of X, Y, Z insurance companies, that is where Policy Bazaar becomes really, really effective as a user. Say, for example, if I have sort of decided that, okay, I want a term insurance of 100 rupees or 1 crore rupees, it's going to Policy Bazaar, it gives me the uh, comparison. My question to you is that when I'm looking at these comparisons, is it possible that I'm missing out on some good deal elsewhere? Like it happens in case of airlines, you book via some websites, they will not cover Air Asia, as a supplier. Does that happen with Policy Bazaar as well? That maybe instead of buying from Policy Bazaar, I buy it from the ICICI website directly. Maybe it saves me money, or maybe ICICI as an option is not displayed. So, what are some tips to use Policy Bazaar effectively, so to say?
Absolutely, absolutely, Ravi. So one, we work with practically every insurance company in the country. Be it the larger brands like ICICI, HDFC, Tata AIG, Bajaj Allianz, Aditya Birla. be it a lot of newer upcoming companies like Digit, for example. So we there are all the options available. So think of it like this: if you are a consumer who's looking to buy insurance, what are the options you have? Options are you can go to companies directly, like you mentioned, you can go to ICICI's website or talk to an agent of ICICI. Now there on the ICICI website, you'll only get options for ICICI products. If you go to, let's say, an offline agent, you will probably get three more options. The agent will probably sell ICICI and HDFC and Tata, just as an example, right? Policy Bazaar today works with 51 insurance companies across lines, across life and general. There typically would not be any one other place where you get access to all of these insurers. That's part one. Part two is, I think what you said is a bit of an understatement, in the sense that, see, we are a comparison portal, yes, but we don't really end there. So we are not just a listing place for all the insurance companies to come and list their plans. What also happens, and we actually spend a lot of time and effort there. See, what we are sitting on is, as you said earlier, we are sitting on a lot of data. We are sitting
Hmm.
on a lot of customer behavior data, on what do consumers want, what are their what are their spending patterns like, what are their behavioral patterns like, in terms of how do claims play out in the longer run. So what we also do is we work very, very closely with insurance companies to define what products are to be created. So we are not just a which is why we are not just a sales platform. We are actually an end-to-end insurance platform. We work very, very closely with our insurance partners to create products also. So today, for example, if you buy one of the new age health insurance products, you get almost 15 add-ons as options. So you can almost, it's like almost going to a restaurant and going to a buffet and choosing what you want to take or eat. So you get so many of these options, which these options, in an offline kind of a scenario, are just not available, because they require tech enablement. They require a customer to understand what is right, what is wrong for me, or what do I need. Typically in an offline scenario, what happens is, when a customer when a customer ends up buying, they are told that this is the right product for you, you should just buy this. And let me actually give my own example. When I had not joined Policy Bazaar, and when I bought my first health insurance policy, I reached out to a dear friend who works in the insurance industry. He then further referred me to an agent saying that this guy is a good friend, you should buy from that guy. So then I spoke to the agent. The agent said, you should buy this XYZ plan from one of the standalone companies. It's a great plan, just buy it. Honestly, and I like to believe that I'm a fairly educated person. I didn't even look at the features. I didn't understand what they were saying, what was the no claim bonus, what was restoration in that. I was told to buy a product. A guy came to my house, collected a check, and I just had a policy after that. That's how, unfortunately, how majority of health insurance has always been sold in India. So I think getting that flexibility, getting that modularity, getting that ability to choose what is the right product to buy for me, because the right product for me versus for you will be very different. So I think that is a very, very important point, apart from obviously the price savings, etc., that one gets, which is where one should look to consider buying online.
Fair. See, what you talked about is essentially a very big problem. You are very well educated. I am slightly educated. There are multiple people who are not educated at all. But health insurance, essentially, I believe, is a need for everyone. So, how do I understand, or how do I even start the process of understanding what sort of health insurance do I need? And I'll start with the very first basic question is, how much health insurance do I need? That's probably the starting point. Should it be 5 lakhs, or should it be 1 crore, or should it be 25 lakhs? That itself becomes a blocker for me to even start searching and doing all that stuff. So how do I figure that out? How much health insurance do I need?
Ravi, this is a question which is very close to my heart, and I'll tell you why as I answer this. See, there are multiple parameters one needs to look at. So one is, what kind of a city do you live in? Like, do you live in Jaipur, or you live in, let's say, Mumbai or Delhi, or let's say you live in Satara? Because the cost of hospitalization will vary according to that. you should also look at what kind of a hospital will you want to go to. Will you want to go to one of those fancy luxury hospitals where you have a suite or a single AC room or a deluxe room to yourself, or are you looking to save money and you want to go to one of the general wards or a shared room? One needs to also look at age, etc., and based on that one should decide a typical rule of thumb, which I look at personally. There's no right answer in this, but the rule of thumb as per me is that one should look at having at least 10 lakhs of sum insured per person, especially if you live in a tier 1 city. If you're in a tier 2 city or beyond, you should at least have 5 lakhs sum insured. Now, see, it's a trade off. It's basically between how much you want to spend and how much protection you want. The interesting thing, and why I was saying this is very close to my heart, is because what we realized is a lot of people end up buying on an average 10 lakh sum insured, specifically families. Now these people who buy 10 lakh sum insured, the difference between a 10 lakh sum insured and a 20 lakh sum insured historically has been about 50%. About 3 years back, what we had created with one of our insurer partners, and now there are 3 4 of such products, is a super top up, which actually takes this 10 lakh to 1 crore in only about 10% cost. So if you're buying a policy worth 10,000 rupees and the sum insured is 10 lakhs, you pay about 1,000 bucks more and your coverage will become 1 crore. That
Okay.
makes it a no-brainer for everybody to have 1 crore sum insured, right? Because so earlier, when going from 10 to 20 was costing 50% extra, people used to think, and it was not a no-brainer as much. But now that at about 10% extra premium, you get 10 times the sum insured, and your sum insured becomes 1 crore. It's a no-brainer. So the right answer to your question is, if you're eligible and if it's available, you should take the 1 crore sum insured. Luckily, now
Understood.
it's available to anybody up to 65 years of age. Even if you have pre-existing diseases like diabetes or hypertension, these plans are available. So the right answer, short answer, is actually one should take 1 crore sum insured. The reason it's close to my heart is because it's one of those co-created products where we worked extremely closely with the insurer to create that option for our consumers.
Fair. And I, personally speaking, I don't really understand whether 5 lakh is a good amount or 10 lakhs or 1 crore is a good amount. But what I do believe is that if, you have a hospitalization, and if 5 lakh rupees is the bill, if that 5 lakh rupees is such a huge amount for you that it derails your financial plan, or you will take, there are plenty of people who will take maybe a year to save that 5 lakh rupees, then it's better to pay a slightly higher insurance amount and get that, instead of relying on some corporate insurance which gives you a 2 lakh or a 3 lakh cover. Because I personally have relied on corporate insurance for a very long period of time, and the insurance amount was maybe just 2 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees. Agreed, it was 15 years ago, so that's also a factor. But even today, I see a lot of companies not having, higher
Yeah.
limits. So, do you also suggest to get maybe a second insurance over and other than what the company or the corporate provides?
Sure, I think Ravi, this is it's again a very very important point, because we see around us so many people, well educated people who have all the money as well. So money is not a constraint, but a lot of people have not thought that what can go wrong with a corporate policy. So there are a few things that can go wrong. I'll explain one by one. Firstly, sum insured, as you said, right? Sum insured typically in a corporate policy is not very high. Like our own company, we are in the insurance world ourselves. My own company gives about 2 lakh sum insured. That's about it right now. The reason is our organization policies are built for everybody, all the way from the call center. So that's why, right? It's a very large setup. So it's been built for that, and we have a policy of equality, so everybody has the same policy. So, like, we have a 2 lakh rupees sum insured policy, which is definitely not enough. We understand that. A lot of MNCs, large corporates, nobody has more than 5 lakhs. Above 5 lakhs is an extremely rare scenario. The average, so we also do a lot of corporate business. The average sum insured in corporate policies is 2.5 lakhs. That is where the market is. Now, what can go wrong? One is sum insured is not enough. So you get into a large claim and boom, the corporate policy finishes. Now you're on your own. That's problem number one. Problem number two is a lot of corporate policies also have sublimits. By sublimit, I mean they have room rent limits. So you can't go beyond a certain room in a hospital. Let's say if the room rent is above 10,000 rupees, then you can't go in that room. Problem is if you work in Delhi NCR or Mumbai or Bangalore or one of these larger cities, larger metros, the room rent is always above 10,000 rupees. Specifically, if you want to go to a large hospital, unfortunately, the number is now from and I happen to be at Apollo hospitals recently in Delhi. The number is now 22,000 rupees for a single AC room. It's become crazy expensive, and no, there's no stopping. So, so because of the sublimits, you might end up paying a large part from your own pocket in case something goes wrong. But see, I'll tell you the biggest problem in this. These are, one can think that I am young. What is going to happen to me? The
Hmm.
biggest problem is in case something happens to you right now when you are only dependent on your corporate policy and you don't have a retail policy of your own. The problem is you will never get a retail policy for yourself. Now, what happens when you leave your job? What happens when you retire? At let's say 50 years or 60 years or much younger, like you, for example. Then, in such a scenario, what do? You don't have any option, and you're practically, you're living with a lifelong liability. Because see, unfortunately, eventually at a later age, healthcare liabilities will come, and they would have become exorbitantly expensive at that time. You may not get a policy at that time. I'll give you a couple of examples also. Some couple of examples which happened in a very close ecosystem to me. One of my batchmates from MBA did not have a retail policy of his own. He was working in a large US MNC based out of Delhi NCR. His wife, very young people, this is about, I think, 3, 4 years back, so about 32, 33 years of age. His wife got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. It's a, it's not a very uncommon condition. It happens to people, unfortunately, right? Now the problem is, so there is no immediate claim also that is needed because there was no hospitalization as well. But the problem is it will eventually, maybe, hopefully not, but it will at some point, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, it will lead to hospitalization conditions. Now the problem is because the person has rheumatoid arthritis, the process of getting a policy for her or them as a family is like next to impossible now. So what we eventually did there was for the guy and his 2-year-old son, we got them one policy which was a sort of feature packed comprehensive health insurance policy. For the lady, we had to get her an extremely feature limited policy which had loads of sublimits, co-payments. There was a room rent capping of 5,000 rupees because that is the only policy that the person can get now because of the pre-existing condition. Now what do you do in such a scenario? You're practically now stuck for the life, right? Because nobody's ever going to give you a policy with rheumatoid arthritis being covered, and there is no other option, and there will be hospitalizations in the future, and it's a huge liability. You never know what happens in the future.
I agree that you cannot really predict how health issues are going to come in, but you cannot predict the insurance company as well. For example, if I have a policy of, and this is actually my condition right now, I have a policy of 5 lakh rupees as sum insured, which I took 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and I'm in the process of renewing that policy, and I'm planning to upgrade that amount. Now, I don't know if I'm going to upgrade it from 5 lakh to 25 lakhs or 5 lakhs to 1 crore. That's I have time to decide on that, and maybe this conversation would help with that. But the problem that I am facing with that is when I try to renew it, which is, I want to continue the same policy, the 5 lakh policy, that the insurance company is very happy to do. Yes, just click off a button and you'll do it. But when I ask them that, no, I want to upgrade to a higher amount or maybe add this, add my kid's name to it and stuff like that, then they are telling me that you can do it obviously, but we'll have to do a fresh proposal, fresh underwriting. So that leaves me in a condition, because suppose I have developed some
Yeah.
issues in the last 10 years, and then the company can obviously say that no, we are not going to insure you for the higher amount, and we'll just continue with the lower one. So health insurance companies, even if I have been doing it for 10 years or 20 years, they can at some point of time decide that no, we are not going to allow you to continue the policy
Uh,
later.
no, no,
No.
no. I'll correct here, Ravi. That
Okay,
cannot.
I don't know. That's why I need an expert. But please tell me, where did I go wrong?
Sure, sure,
Where
sure.
did I go wrong?
I'll explain. See,
Uh,
one, health insurance or insurance in general is an
hmm,
extremely regulated business.
hmm,
And the regulator, for all the greatness, I think they've been very good in controlling insurance companies to ensure that nothing goes wrong to the customer.
hmm.
So on that topic, the first thing that the insurance rules say is that your policy is lifelong renewable. What that means is, till you are alive, your policy has to be mandatorily renewed. The insurance company cannot deny a renewal. Up to
Okay.
that, for whatever you have right now, this is important because you want to upgrade your policy, right?
Hmm.
For your current 5 lakh policy, nobody in this world can deny you a renewal. Till you are alive, your
Okay.
policy will get renewed, right? And whatever no claim bonus you would
Hmm.
have accrued, you will keep on getting that, right? So that
Okay.
is that is one part that just cannot be denied. That is a rule, and it is followed to
But
the T.
just 1 second about this. So let's say if I was paying a 10,000 rupee premium for that, they can jack up the premium to 20,000 rupees or 30,000 rupees at some point of time for the same amount of insurance. And
I'll explain. They can
Hmm,
they can do that, but they do it at a portfolio level. So the other rule that is there is, again, from a regulation perspective, is that premiums cannot vary across customers. So if Ravi Handa has a 5 lakh rupee policy at, say, 40 years age, and Amit Chabbra has the same policy at the same age, our
hmm,
premiums cannot be different. The only scenario where premiums can be different is if at the time of buying the policy we had different health conditions, so the insurance company would have done some loading. That would have happened at the time of buying the policy only, and let's say I have a disease and you don't have a disease, then our premiums could have been different, but the but that would always be the case, and that proportion will always remain the same. So let's
that
say if
that
your
would
premium
rem-
is
that would remain. I'm talking about a slightly different scenario. So both of us got the policy at the age of 30. From 30 to 40 or 30 to 50, you lived a very healthy life. I lived a very unhealthy life. So by the time I'm 50, I have developed, diabetes, blood pressure, blah, 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 plenty of conditions. And you haven't. Whenever I've developed a condition, I have reported that to the company. If there is a claim, I have claimed that, and all that is going fine. Still at 50, will both our renewals prices will be the same?
absolutely the same, they cannot change. So even if you've
Okay.
claimed, God forbid, if you have claimed for the last 20 years, every year you've claimed
Hmm.
those 5 lakh rupees, your
Hmm.
premium cannot change. If let's say again two people buy a policy today, and one of the persons detects with cancer,
Hmm.
and you end up claiming some 50-60 lakh rupees,
Hmm.
even then next year the premiums for this person and the other person who's not claimed in the last so many years, premiums cannot be different. They have to be exactly the same. It's a rule, it's a law.
It's a
So
law.
premiums cannot change.
Okay.
The only, and it's a topic which is, which gets discussed a lot, and I feel at times it gets misunderstood a lot as well. So I'll just probably take, a minute to explain. See, premiums increase only because of two reasons. Premiums increase, one, because of age. So every insurance policy that you buy, and this you would know upfront when you're buying your policy itself.
Hmm.
When you buy a policy, at that moment, the insurance premium, there is a slab structure that that insurance companies follow. It's published, so you know it when you're buying the policy, or ideally you should be knowing it when you're buying the policy, where you are told that, like for example, from 18 to 35 years there is a specific premium. It's the same premium for every customer. 35 to 40 or 36 to 40 is one slab, same premium for every customer. 41 to 45, same premium for every customer, and so on and so forth. So there are age slabs defined. Now, the moment you jump an age slab, your premium increases. That is one part. So if let's say I am 30, if I am 39 today, and when I turn 40, my insurance premium will increase because I move a slab. That's one. Most 99% of the plans follow this slab structure. There are some plans which follow an every year structure as well, where premiums increase by small proportions every year. So that is one which is linked to your age. The second reason why premiums ever increase is because of medical inflation. Because see, unlike let's say term insurance where the payout is fixed, because you die, you get 1 crore rupees, so payout is fixed. In case of health insurance, because of medical inflation, the claim amounts keep on increasing. So let me give you some statistic here. 4 years back, this is I'm talking about pre-COVID, the average claim severity was about 40,000 rupees. This means an average claim paid by the insurance company was worth 40,000 rupees.
Hmm.
In 2022, and I'm talking 2 years back, so actually just within 2 years, the claim severity almost doubled. So the average severity is now anywhere between 75 to 80,000 rupees. So a lot of medical inflation happened, hospitalization became expensive. A lot of prevention came into the picture in terms of, ensuring there is enough sanitization. A lot of tests came into the picture. A bit of badmashi also happened at hospitals, unfortunately. So if you add all of that, what ends up happening is that the claim severity is almost doubled. So to correct for that as well, insurance companies, from time to time, which typically on an average is 2 to 3 years. There are some companies which increase every year as well. There are some companies which increase after 5 years. But on an average, what we see is that insurance companies correct premiums, in 2 to 3 years. What that means is premiums on an average for everybody will go up by about 10%. So, for example, if again let's take the same case. If
Hmm.
if Ravi and Amit both are of the same age and they were paying, let's say, 20,000 rupees premium last year, if assuming they've not jumped the age slab, the premium next year will be 22,000 rupees. But again, there for the same customer types, the inflation will be exactly the same. So if let's say you are a claiming customer and I'm a non-claiming customer, premiums for both of us will remain exactly the same. So premiums won't change, by person. If somebody I've claimed more or claimed less, that won't change. So these are the only two reasons why premiums can ever increase. There is never any other third reason.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So this is, with the existing policy, if suppose you already have a 5 lakh cover, if you keep on continuing that. Now, then I come to the second question that perhaps 10 years ago, I don't even remember why I got a 5 lakh cover. Someone must have recommended it. But suppose, so one option is, right now I can upgrade it from 5 to 10. Maybe a few years down the line, I can upgrade it from 10 to 20. And I do these upgrades maybe every 5 years or something, depending upon what the inflation costs are. The other option is that, let me just get a 1 crore cover now. And I continue that for the next 20, 30 years till, the 1 crore remains, seems like enough. Which one would be the more prudent thing to do, in your opinion?
See, of course, the right answer here has to be 1 crore because see, it's
Okay.
a cost benefit analysis. One has to look at it like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how do I? I'll do the math. Just tell me what factors I need to consider. I'm not able to understand how it would impact my decision making. That's why
Sure.
I'm asking this.
See, for a let's talk about your case. Your case
Yes.
only. You have a 5 lakh policy right now.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think 5 lakh specifically in a family setup while you're in Jaipur, in a family setup, 5 lakhs is not enough.
Hmm.
Because if God forbid, in any unfortunate situation, you have to go to a hospital, you would want to go to a good hospital, right? You would not want to go
Hmm.
to, let's say, a small, not so
Hmm.
luxurious or not so fancy hospital. So 5 lakhs is definitely not enough because if you look at the typical claim amounts that come with with various treatments, 5 lakhs will just vanish. In case something major happens, 5 lakh will just vanish away in 5 days or even less. So
True.
so I think that is one part. But now coming to to the cost benefit analysis that I was saying. See, I'll give you a simple example. For me, I'm roughly your age. So for me, my wife and my 7-year-old daughter, I today have a 1 crore plan. That 1 crore plan for me costs about 23,000 rupees. That's it.
Hmm.
A 10 lakh sum insured plan costs about, I think, about 19,000 rupees or so. 19 or 20,000 rupees or so.
Hmm.
So the additional actually is about 21, because I remember I paid about 1,300 rupees for the super top up. So the additional premium that I'm paying to upgrade from 10 lakh to 1 crore was actually just 1,300 rupees per year. It's that less.
Okay.
Then now if you instead have a 5 lakh policy, a 5 lakh policy will come at about probably 12,000 bucks or so.
Hmm.
So from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, there is a jump. From 10 lakhs to 1 crore, the jump is much less.
Insignificant.
So
Understood.
if over a year, and this is an annual premium,
Hmm.
if over a year those I would say 5-7 thousand rupees, you know,
That's
don't
to be
matter.
honest, to be honest, the difference is not that significant. So
Yeah.
I sort of get the idea that you get the 1 crore cover or the 50 lakh cover or whatever is the substantial amount. But maybe it is because of the policy that I am in, or maybe I checked it wrong. The difference between a 5 lakh rupee policy which is supposed to be renewed versus a 1 crore rupee policy. I didn't check the difference between 10 and 1 crore,
Yeah.
but the difference between 5 and 1 crore was extremely significant in comparison.
I
Maybe
tell you
I'll
what.
check, I'll do this comparison again, that how much of a difference is there between a 20 lakh policy versus a 1 crore policy, for example. So I'll check on that again. Thanks for that pointer. The other doubt that I have is this additional jump that you are saying, is that because you're buying a top up or a super top up policy, or this would happen even in your regular insurance products where I'm going from, 25 lakh rupee policy and a 1 crore rupee policy? Uh,
Yes, yes, Ravi. That's actually exactly that. Actually, you mentioned that you bought this policy 10 years back, right?
hmm,
So what has happened is that there has been a lot of innovation that has also come up over the last few years in
hmm,
product. So then there are two products actually within your same company. You have a care health insurance policy
hmm,
within the same company. You have an option to buy a 1 crore plan also,
hmm,
which which will not be just 10% cheaper than 10 lakhs, but it
hmm.
will probably be about 30% cheaper than 10 lakhs. So the plan, I'll explain this. You have a plan called,
30% costlier.
yeah, yeah, but it will not be very costly. So I'll explain.
Okay.
There are three options. You
Hmm,
have a plan called Care right now.
hmm,
This plan, you have a 5 lakh plan.
hmm,
Moving from Care from 5 lakhs to 1 crore will probably cost 5-6 times the premium that you're paying right now.
hmm,
This is an old plan, in the insurance company setup as well.
hmm.
And largely what is done here is that renewal businesses in this product. Not a lot of new customers buy this product now anymore.
Hmm.
The other plan that the same company has is called Care Advantage.
Correct.
This is a
That
high sum insured plan which has three sum insureds: 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs, and 1 crore only.
correct. Correct. That's
Iska,
the one that I was looking at, and that's where the premium was significantly higher compared to
uh,
the 5 lakh one.
and the third option is going for a super top up based plan,
Hmm,
which unfortunately Care Health Insurance does not have that option right now, but some other companies have.
hmm,
Where, so as I was explaining, right, with a from 10 lakhs to 1 crore, you go in only 1,300 rupees for about 40 years age, two adult and a child.
hmm,
So by buying a base, so the most effective, or the most, I would say, efficient way of increasing your sum insured today is a super top up. And you have to think of it like a hack more than anything else, right?
okay.
One can argue that why is it that a grounds up plan from 0 to 1 crore so expensive, whereas a top up and a base plan combination so cheap, right? It's a very logical question to ask. So
Hmm.
let me go slightly technical here. I'll try to explain why this is. See,
Be-
most
before that, before that, can you explain, what is a top-up plan and a super top-up plan? These two are there, the ones that I've read, and the third one, which is, where you take the base itself higher.
Sure, sure, sure. I'll do that. See, there are options. One, so what you call a base plan, it's essentially one plan which covers you from 0 to 1 crore, let's say.
Hmm.
Right? So it says that the first claim of even 10,000 rupees, or let's say a large claim of 50 lakh rupees, it will all be paid by one policy.
Hmm.
And this is how traditionally health insurance was priced. And because of that, it is quite expensive. Basically, it assumes a certain risk, and based on that a certain price is arrived at, which as per the traditional pricing variables is the right approach. A top up is essentially a plan which, so I'll explain how a top up works. A top up has two concepts: there is a sum insured and there is a deductible. Sum insured means what is the total amount that will be covered by the health insurance policy. So let's say that number is 1 crore. Now this top up also has a deductible. A deductible means that amount which will have to be paid by you when the claim comes, after which everything else will be paid by the insurance company. So the easiest way to understand is probably car insurance, because everybody uses car insurance and claims using car insurance. Typically, in a car insurance scenario, when you claim, the first 1,000 or 2,000 rupees has to be paid by you, and then everything else is paid by the insurance company.
Correct.
Similarly, so it's the same concept. It's called a deductible in a health insurance parlance. Now, the way in the last 3 4 years, the way health insurance products have been designed is that there have been a lot of new kind of features added to these health insurance products. I'll give you a couple of examples. Now, every policy comes with what is called a cumulative bonus, which means that every year your sum insured will increase to cover for inflation. So if you buy a 10 lakh rupee policy today, next year it will become 20 lakhs, the year after it will become 30 lakhs, and so on and so forth. There are actually now plans. So ICICI Lombard launched a plan recently, where we co-created with them. It's called Elevate, where this actually goes up to unlimited. So which means that you buy 10 lakhs today, it will become 20, 30, 40, 50. After 20 years, it will go to 2 crore rupees also. And it will keep on growing forever. So the base sum insured also keeps on increasing. That's what you get in most modern plans these days. That's part one. The other thing that happens is, now when you buy a top up, with a deductible, let's say that same example of 1 crore and 10 lakhs deductible, actually the 10 lakhs deductible is not even real, because your base plan which you are buying for 10 lakhs would have gone to 20, 30, 40, 50 lakhs already by the time you claim. So on an average, one person claims on an average in about 10 years. So your sum insured would have already become 1 crore. Now you would first claim using your base policy of 1 crore, and then you will move to claiming the top up of 1 crore. So the deductible actually ends up being very, very high, and which is why the pricing is very efficient. Which is why the
Understood.
pricing of a super top up ends up being significantly cheaper. Now, an obvious question is, will this last forever? Will these top ups be cheaper always? Probably 20 years down the line, when an average claim amount will probably be 10 lakhs, and a critical illness will mean 2 crores of claims being paid, then this premium will increase, right? But till then, as a policyholder, as a consumer, you can save your money and enjoy a much lower premium. This is the
Understood.
reason why. I don't know if I was clear enough, but
No, no, I got that. So what I'll just repeat what I understood. So the idea is that instead of taking the plan which covers you from 0 to 1, you sort of get one plan which covers you from 0 to 10, and then there is another plan which will cover you from 11 to 100, so to say, which will be your top up plan, because the first 10 is deductible, which will come from your 0 to 10 policy. So these are the innovations, and this is the status in 2024. But it kind of hurts me a little that I am your customer, and this is to the insurance companies. I'm your customer for 10 years. And I'm a good customer. In the entire 10-year period, I've had one very small claim of 50,000 rupees, and I've given you so much more money than that. You are still prioritizing newer policies for newer customers and offering them these features instead of passing on, let's say, some of these innovations and some of these benefits to the older users. So is this something which exists only with care, so to say, or this is an industry-wide practice that happens across at companies?
So I'll actually disagree on this one, Ravi. You
Okay,
can
sure.
see you have a 10-year-old policy, which means obviously it's become outdated in terms of features and benefits.
Hmm.
That does not stop you from buying or rather upgrading to a newer plan within the same company,
Hmm.
right? So within Care, you can actually upgrade to this plan called Care Supreme, which is right now one of the most feature packed plans out there in the market.
Hmm.
All your waiting periods are carried forward into the plan. You can obviously decide to upgrade, and let's say instead of doing 5 lakhs, do a 10 lakh or a 1 crore, or a bigger number. But you can always upgrade. That option is always available to you. I think
Okay.
I think there probably what might be missing is a bit of guidance. Right? Somebody should have come and guided you that that Care Supreme is a better plan. You can migrate from Care to Care
को
Supreme.
कौन करेगा सर गाइड? दिक्कत ही वही है, केयर वालों को फोन कर करके परेशान हो गया मैं कि बता दो क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. So see, that's what the problem exists. I tried contacting care and I could not get a reasonable response from them. I tried contacting an agent for the same, a physical local agent, and the impression that he gave me was that there will have to be a fresh underwriting which will need to be done if you go for a new policy or something like that. And because of my BMI, my weight, and my smoking, drinking habits, it would be very, very difficult to get a new policy or a new plan. So it's easier to just continue the old one. His actual advice was, "Ki, lose 20 kgs to get better premiums." If I could lose 20 kgs, I'll probably not need the health insurance for a very long time. But that being aside, this lack of guidance is a very, very genuine problem. We don't know who to go to. And I actually contacted PolicyBazaar as well. And the person that I contacted, he tried to explain everything to me, and everything said and done. But even there, the push was not for that, you continue this plan and maybe buy a top up or get to the supreme thing. There, the push came in from, and I'm sure it would be because those are the policies which are popular today. They started recommending that, no, boss, forget all this. You maybe port to we have a very good policy from Niva Bupa. I think they also recommended the Tata AIG as an option, and those were all very good plans. I'm not blaming those guys even one bit. But you cannot expect a customer to know about ki, okay, this policy also exists and that also exists, and you can get the 0 to 1 upgrade or the top ups and everything. Aren't there any regulated players, or maybe the care insurance themselves have guys that where you can go and query and ask and understand? I look at mutual funds as an example. I look at banks as an example. All of them, whether their advice is correct or wrong, all of them have processes in place where I, as a layman, can go ask them. The relationship manager will give me some advice.
Hmm.
I'm not questioning the quality of the advice, but he does. Even in a mutual fund house, if you walk into a mutual fund house's office, there they will have someone who is available, even if you are a direct investor, to guide you. Okay, these are the forms, these are the options which exist. So, isn't there a similar sort of structure for advice which exists at these insurance companies?
So there should be, we'll have to check, what exactly happened in your case, because
Hmm.
so typically the way, insurance companies work, so they do have these service teams, who guide the customers on anything and everything related to their, to your health insurance needs. That's part one. Part two is they also reach out to you proactively at the time of renewal, or they should ideally reach out to you.
They did. That's how I found out about it. But so what happens is they send a link that go to this link and pay this much, and end of story.
uh,
That's the thing. That's
In
what
your case, if
confuses
I
me.
may ask, where did you buy your policy originally from?
I genuinely don't remember. It was a very long time ago. I think the company was not called Care at that point of time.
Yeah, it
I
was
think it was
Religare.
called
It would probably be
Religare.
Religare at that
So
time.
I most probably I just walked into a Religare office
Got it.
and bought it offline from the Religare office.
Got it. So you mentioned about about mutual funds having a walk-in place or a branch.
Hmm.
See, these branches exist for health insurance or any insurance companies also. You
Hmm.
go there, you get support. That obviously happens, or you should get support. If you call,
Hmm.
you should get support as well. And honestly, that is where we as Policybazaar also come into the picture. I'll give you
Hmm.
a bit of a market dynamic. Why
Hmm.
probably it's a bit tough, or why you're probably finding it a bit tough to to get support right now, and probably why one of our guys who you would have called as Policy Bazaar also probably did not give you support. Or see, the way unfortunately the health insurance industry works is that today the concept of code change or advisor change is thoroughly discouraged. So what that means is that if today you have bought a policy from some offline agent, let's say 10 years back, if you come to Policy Bazaar saying that I want to renew my policy with Policy Bazaar, or renew my or upgrade my policy via Policy Bazaar, but stay within the insurance same insurance company, that because of various market dynamics is not allowed right now. That's the true story. You may hear multiple stories, but that is actually the real
Okay.
story. What that means is that whoever you go to for advice will end up giving you the advice that either just renew your policy, or move to another insurance company where any distributor will actually love you as a customer because you're a new customer. But but that is the reality. And migration is a bit of a it's a bit of a I would say not a very seamless process as it should be. So I think that probably a bit of layer of guidance is not there.
Fair, fair. I think I'll work on it. I have more than a month to figure that out. But going on to the other aspects of health insurance, which is something that I have learned in the past weeks or so when I'm exploring. So some of the things, can you just tell us a little bit about? These are the things which I found important. One was, the room rent cap came out as an important issue. Consumables came out as an important issue, and pre and post op care, how much time is given, that
Yeah.
came out as an important issue when deciding on a policy. So, can you please tell us about at least about these three? And in case there is anything else that you want to point out, that Handa, please keep this in mind whenever you are deciding on a health insurance
Sure, sure.
policy.
So I think so. What you said are three important basic principles to look at. So room rent capping essentially means what is the maximum room limit you can go to in case of hospitalization. In a
Hmm.
lot of old policies, very old PSU policies specifically, they used to have a concept of a percentage of room rent. By that, what I mean is that if you have a sum insured of 5 lakhs, then you can buy a policy which has a room. You can go to a hospital of 1% of 5 lakhs, which means 5,000 rupees is your room rent limit. Now,
Okay.
what happens if you go beyond that? It's important to understand. If you go to, let's say, a hospital of, we were talking about Apollo hospitals where a room costs 20,000 rupees, then 5,000 by 20,000, only one fourth of your claim will be paid by the insurance company. And it is not just the cost of the room, everything else also gets proportionately deducted. So the cost of a doctor visiting, the cost of medicines, everything else, even diagnostics, the cost of everything else also gets deducted in the same proportion. And so practically that means you will get only 25% of your claim.
Okay.
Luckily,
Even if my sum insured is higher.
yes, yes, that's right. Because you went to a higher
Okay.
room category than what you were supposed to go to.
Let me understand this clearly once again. So, I have a 5 lakh policy in which, let's say, the room rent limit is 5,000 rupees. I go to a hospital where I am in a room worth 10,000 rupees just for easier calculations. My actual bill comes out to be 3 lakh rupees, then I'll probably end up paying 1,50,000 or half of it
Yes,
out of my pocket.
yes, yes, that's right.
But why? It is still under that 5 lakh limit, right?
Because you see the way the insurance pricing would have been done for this policy, it would have been
Hmm.
done assuming that you will go to a hospital which has a room of 5,000 rupees. Let's say
Hmm.
it is some primary care nursing home or something like that, because typically only these will have rooms in the 5,000 rupee range. But if you went to one of the max hospitals,
Hmm.
obviously the fees of the doctor, the cost of diagnostics, even the cost of food that you're eating, everything else will be higher, because typically everything is a multiple or a function of the room that you're going to. So the pricing of the plan is done in such a manner that it assumes you'll go to a room of 5,000 rupees or less, and hence the pricing is much lower as well. But if you go to a higher room, then proportionate deductions apply. That
So,
is an
so you need to
unfortunate.
be careful
Yeah, you have to be
with that
careful.
part.
You have to be very careful. And unfortunately, a lot of these old policies, specifically, policies with PSU insurers, or a lot of these bank policies that people used to buy with, with the state bank, or with other public sector banks specifically, all of these have these cappings, and people are not even aware, because some agent came home, took a check, and gave a policy document. People didn't even read those documents. that's the
Fair.
that's the unfortunate reality, of where average consumer is. The good news is in the last, I would say, last 10 years, there has been a lot of innovation, like the policy that you have,
Hmm.
that, or most policies that are sold today or in the last 5 years, they don't have this 1% limit. So
Hmm.
all policies of 5 lakhs and above, on a, like, typically almost all policies, they have a capping of a single private room.
Correct. That's the one that I
The one
also
that
have. It
you
does
have
not
as well.
mention the amount. It
Right.
mentions that it should be a single
Yes,
AC room or
yes,
something
yes.
like
So
that.
it is covered. All single rooms are covered in any hospital of your choice. You can go to, the fanciest hospital in the country, where, let's say, the room is worth 30,000 rupees, or you can go to a primary care hospital, where the room is worth 2,000 rupees. You are covered for a single room anywhere in the country, in any hospital of your choice, up to sum
Un-
insured. So that
Understood.
clause of sum insured now comes into the picture.
Understood. So essentially, if you can afford it, the best one is there is no room rent cap limits.
Yes,
The second best possible option would be that you opt for a private room or a shared room or something like that.
yes, yes,
And maybe then you get to the category which has these 1% or 5,000 rupee limits. Those
yes.
would be preferred. Fair enough. So, sir, ये तो हो गई अपनी room rent की बात. Let's move to the consumables aspect now.
Sure, sure. So consumable, I'll explain what consumables mean. Consumables refer to any any equipment or materials which are used during the treatment, which are used up, which are consumed. So they are not the machines or the fees of the doctor, but like syringe, mask, gloves, sanitizer, stuff like that. Anything which is consumed during your treatment is called a consumable item. Now, historically, consumable items were never covered in health insurance policies. Actually, again, let me draw a parallel to motor insurance here, because that is a claiming process a lot more consumers are used to. When you are, let's say, getting your car repaired, the nuts and bolts, small items which are consumed during the repair of your car, they are also the same consumable items. They
Hmm.
are not covered in motor insurance as well. Now, in health insurance, typically the proportion or the cost of these items historically used to be very, very small. So historically, we had seen that this number was very, very small, and typically this would be 1 to 5% of your health insurance bill. Post COVID or during COVID, and then hence after that, this proportion has increased considerably. Now doctors wear PPE kits, sanitizer is used. If you have to do an MRI, the MRI machine is sanitized before every scan. Stuff like this was never happening earlier. Everybody uses gloves, and they change gloves the moment they move from one room to the other, because that is the right sanitization protocol, right? So all of this has meant that now, in a post COVID scenario, because sanitization has become very important, and people have also become quite used to it, the consumables have become on an average 10 to 15% of a hospitalization bill. So if one has a claim of 10 lakh rupees, anywhere between 70 80,000 to 1.5 lakh rupees, depending upon what kind of procedure there is the cost of consumables. Now, typically, consumables is not covered in health insurance policies, but by opting for a rider, you can rider is basically is like one of the optional benefits in health insurance policies. You can get consumables covered by default in your policy, and the cost of this rider is typically 7 8%.
Okay.
So this is one of those optional coverages that you must opt for. It is absolutely essential. If you have an existing policy, which I'm sure a lot of your followers will have, then you must opt for this at the time of renewal. Most companies allow, at the time of renewal also to take it. So you must also take it as your renewal
Get
is.
this as an add-on? No, I remember getting this as an add-on the last time
Oh,
I
okay. That's great.
renewed the policy, because when I was hospitalized in COVID, that's the only time that I have taken the claim. So when I was hospitalized during COVID, that's the time that I found out that it should be cashless. No, no, there was some, I don't remember. The amount was not significant enough, but there was some amount, and that's when I found out that okay, these are consumables; they would be charged because they're not covered in the policy, and my much more than paying that extra few thousand rupees. My concern was because of that the process gets delayed. It comes at a surprise and a shock to you because I'm trying to get discharged and go back to the home, and
Correct.
suddenly that no, this extra bill needs to be paid. There is an argument, but I'm insured, I'm not insured, so that causes a problem. So yes, consumables is something that I am definitely getting now. And I didn't know that the price difference is 7 8% in premium, and I'm happy to pay that because in my claim also it makes a 7 8%
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
So if there is something which makes a 20% difference on claim and you ask for a 20% premium, I'm okay with that because
Exactly.
it matches, so it's fair. So this becomes the consumable part. The third part, which I wanted to ask about, was the pre-operative and the post-operative care and how
Yeah.
many days and stuff like that.
So that also has gone through significant transition. I think the policy you have has a 30/60
Correct.
pre-post, which means 30 days pre-hospitalization and 60 days post-hospitalization. One is covered for any procedures, medicines, diagnostic tests, etc. Right now, typically, in a regular scenario, if you're going for a hospitalization, somebody would have prescribed you, which means one would have gone to a doctor, got some checkups done, would probably be taking some medicines already. Similarly, after hospitalization, one follows the same approach. You go through a process. There is a post discharge checkup that is required a few times. There are medicines prescribed. There are tests prescribed. So all of these get covered in this feature called pre and post hospitalization. In most new policies, this is now either 60/180 or 90/180 as well, which almost means that you are covered for almost 1 year, or probably 3/4 of a year. You get covered, which includes 90 days pre-hospitalization and 180 days post-hospitalization. It's I you know one can feel that what's going to happen, but specifically, in case a chronic illness happens, this feature comes in really handy, because if a doctor has prescribed you medicines, over a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month period, then these are things which come in very very handy, because all of your medicines actually get covered. If there is a physiotherapy prescribed in case there is a physical injury, there are regular diagnostic tests prescribed in case, depending upon what was the ailment. So all of these also get covered as a part of, the pre and post hospitalization. So again, for somebody who's buying a policy new, you should look to maximize that. It typically does not even cost much, and now
Okay.
almost every policy has this feature. For somebody like you who has an old policy and looking to renew, you should again look to upgrade, because for hardly anything extra in terms of cost, you should look to get to a
You will
90
get these
kind
benefits.
of a policy.
फेयर, फेयर। तो सर ये तो बात हो गई कि कौन सी पॉलिसी लेनी है। The other issue or the challenge, which thankfully I have not faced, but I have seen and heard and read stories, is about the claim process.
Yeah.
The problems that personally I have faced in the claim process is that it has taken an astronomical amount of time for the approval to come in. Discharge was done by the doctor typically in the morning at 8 a.m., 9 a.m.
Yeah.
in the morning rounds, and you are not able to get out till 2 p.m. And sometimes it has once taken me the entire day, and I was able to get out at 6 p.m. So, is there something that I can do to speeden up this process, maybe give the right set of papers or something like that? Claims have been approved, so I have no horror stories that my claim was rejected for this reason or that reason. But this delay has been a huge problem which I face, and even
Sure.
in case of completely cashless hospitalizations as
Yeah.
well. I understand, okay, that there is consumables or something like that, some money needs to be paid, but no, even in pure cashless hospitalizations, this has been a huge issue. How do I tackle this?
Sure, sure. I'll explain that, and I think we should also talk about some horror stories, because I think it's one topic that typically people do want to know more about. So we can come to that at a later point. But to your point, see, let's understand why this delay happens, Ravi. See, there are three parties in this whole claim process. There is you as the person who's hospitalized. There is the hospital, and there is the payer, which is the insurance company, right? The moment the moment a doctor says that Ravi, you are now fine, you are ready to be discharged from hospital. Post that, I'll explain what really happens at the hospital and at the insurance company. The insurance company nursing station is the one which is informed first, because they are the ones who work with the doctor. The nursing station then typically creates your discharge summary. They create a discharge summary which also lists down everything that was your treatment, what are the medicines prescribed, what are the medicines consumed, what is your final bill. So the final bill is created between the nursing station and the finance, and it's typically in a system, so it's not even manual anymore, in the large hospitals at least. So there is a final bill that is generated. Post that, I'll tell you typically an hour that goes between that. There are these, so typically when you are hospitalized, strips of medicines are kept in your room right now, because they don't give. So let's say if you were hospitalized for 4 days, they won't give you four tablets, they'll give you the entire strip,
Hmm.
right? Now what happens, because you don't know for how many days one is hospitalized, right? So they give you the entire strip. Now what happens is all of those medicines have to be returned, because you don't need them anymore and you don't want to pay for it, of course, right? Or the insurance company does not want to pay for it. So typically what happens is there is a process for that. All of those medicines are sent back to the pharmacy in the hospital. The pharmacy guy who's already busy handling 10 other customers there, he or she would look at those medicines, and they would almost give you like an internal credit note saying that you've charged 1,000 bucks for these medicines, but only 300 needs to be charged, so 700 needs to be returned. So that reconciliation happens. Post that reconciliation, your final bill is generated and then sent to the insurance company. Now once
Okay.
it is sent to the insurance company looks at the bill and evaluates. Typically, the insurance company, in a cashless setup, would take between 30 minutes to 1 hour to reply back. What they do is they corroborate what is the treatment that is done with what is your medical history, with what was disclosed in your in your proposal form when you were buying the policy. So for example, if your discharge summary states that you are a chronic diabetic, and hence let's say there is a renal failure that happened or something like that, and hence these medicines are prescribed. But at the time of buying the policy, you didn't disclose that you are a diabetic, then the insurance company raises a query. Now that is a real scenario that happens, in claims. We see a lot of these claims and a lot of to and fro does happen. Now, then what happens is once the query is raised, the nursing station sort of goes back and responds back to the. So there is a to and fro that happens. The nursing station or the doctor responds back to the customer that this chronic diabetes started only, let's say, 2 years back or something. So the question that the insurance company would have raised is, since when does the customer have diabetes? Because there was no disclosure of diabetes. Now, the insurance company will send the answer as diabetes is existing for, let's say, 2 years. Now, your policy is 10 years old, so there is no problem at all. So, this to and fro will again take an hour or so, and eventually the policy will be approved and the claim will be paid. So once the insurance company receives this answer from the customer or from the hospital, that is when the claim gets approved. Now this process ends up taking a bit of time, but see there are these three parties involved. Unfortunately, what happens is कि इसमें insurance company बदनाम हो जाती है, but it's actually the coordination between the hospital and the insurance company which takes that much time. Now, as a consumer, what can you do? I think that is the more important question, right? Because there is a process. That process has to be done because the insurance company is paying the claim, so they will want to evaluate your, evaluate your bill or evaluate the treatment that happened. The right
नहीं,
thing to
मेरे को
do
तो
is
वो मेडिसिन वाला ही लग रहा है कि वो मेडिसिन लेके जाते हैं, उसकी एंट्री करेंगे, उसको उसमें घंटा 1.5 घंटा तो बॉस उसमें
घंटा
लगा
1 घंटा
देते हैं
कितना
लोग.
लग जाता है, छोटी सी बात होती है, बट अब दैट इज द प्रोसेस अनफॉर्चुनेटली. अभी तो अभी तो सो मच इज बिकम ऑटोमेटेड दैट पहले तो क्या होता था कि मतलब स्कैन होके फैक्स होके डॉक्यूमेंट्स जाते थे. लकीली नाउ एंड इट्स स्टिल नॉट एज ऑटोमेटेड एक्चुअली, इट स्टिल गोज ऑन ईमेल्स. एक्चुअली यू माइट हैव heard about this national claims exchange which is now coming to life. That will actually really help speed up claims, but so far it's an extremely manual process. What can you do? So the question is, what can you do if you are at a hospital and in a claim scenario? See, two things you can do. One is make sure that you inform the company or the intermediary from where you have bought the policy that I am at a hospital, I am in this process. So please help me, help me when the discharge process is needed. That is part one. So like at PolicyBazaar, I'll explain what we do for our consumers. We actually provide on ground claim support in more than 125 cities, which means we send our guys to the hospital on the day of discharge. Wherever a customer tells us, informs us, not everybody actually informs us also, but wherever we get this information, we send our people to the hospital. They do the running around. See, what you don't want is already you or a family member is in trouble. You don't really want at that time, figuring out where to go, what to do. There are multiple places you have to go to. You have to go to their billing desk. You have to go to a TPA counter. You have to go to a nursing station. You know, a layman customer has no clue what to do when they are at a hospital. Now, in such a scenario, that's where we make sure that we send our guys to help. They are experts who know the hospital processes. That's part one. That you must inform the insurance company or wherever you bought the policy from to help you in the process. The second thing which is important is, if let's say one is anticipating a discharge tomorrow, then you must specifically let the insurance company know or the distributor know that you're anticipating a discharge tomorrow. So what we do for a lot of our consumers is that in case a discharge is anticipated tomorrow, we try and get pre-approvals or majority of the approvals up front, so that
Okay.
at least the decisioning is done, and the only thing that is left is this medicine return and plus minor whatever would have happened on the last day. So that ensures that there is a intermediate reconciliation that has happened, because otherwise actually for a like I had to go through a hospitalization for my mom about I think 6 months back or so. That bill is 3 pages with whatever you ate, to the smallest bandage that was put on you, to every syringe that was or every injection that was given to you, to every tablet that was given to you. It's a 3 page long bill. Some dietitian will just come and ask कि माता जी आप ठीक हैं, और उसके 1,000 रुपए भी जुड़े होते हैं उस बिल में, which That's how unfortunately it is. So this entire reconciliation happens up front. So that also significantly helps, speed up the discharge process. बट आप फिर भी मान के चलिए कि 2-3 घंटे तो लगेंगे ही इन स्पाइट ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दैट, बट इट रिड्यूसेस द पेन विच इज टुडे 6 to 8 hours. That
Hmm.
comes to about a couple of hours.
So, matlab, if my discharge is due tomorrow, I call up the insurance company in advance and tell them that my discharge is due tomorrow. I have never done that. I didn't even know that was possible, that you can call up the insurance company in advance. So, what do? You call them, you tell them your policy number, and you tell them that you are admitted or something like that?
So, see, they would already know that you're admitted, because if you are in
Hmm.
a cashless claim,
Hmm.
then आपका pre-authorization उन्होंने करा होगा already. So they would already know about your claim.
Okay.
This information of you're anticipating a discharge tomorrow. So
Hmm.
not all companies offer this benefit. We as PolicyBazaar offer this benefit for all our consumers. But apart
चलो,
from that, there
तो
are
पॉलिसी बाजार से लेने का कम से कम ये फायदा हो जाएगा कि अच्छा हाँ, आदमी मिल जाएगा इन केस यू गेट स्टक, इफ यू नीड हेल्प देयर विल बी अ पॉलिसी बाजार रिप्रेजेंटेटिव देयर टू हेल्प.
but parallelly some other companies also offer this benefit, to be very
अच्छा.
fair. So like HDFC Ergo has this feature where for all their consumers they offer this benefit as well. So some companies offer it. We do it for all our consumers as a service.
वेरी नाइस. और इसके लिए मतलब इज देयर एनी एडिशनल एड ऑन दैट आई नीड टू बाय, और दिस इज जस्ट अ सर्विस provided by Policy Bazaar and HDFC Ergo, etc.?
It's a free of cost service. See, as a broker,
Hmm.
that's our job. We have to help our consumers in claims. That is who we represent. As HDFC Ergo, this is a free of cost benefit or service that they offer to their consumers, as to make claims as seamless as possible. So both of them are free of cost services.
इसको भी इंडस्ट्री स्टैंडर्ड बनवाओ सर. बहुत जरूरी है, बहुत जरूरी है.
See, I'll,
Because
I'll be honest. Let me give you an insurance side of things, on claims. As I was saying earlier, right? Insurance companies बहुत बदनाम हो जाती है कई बारी claims में, but in majority of the cases, actually a hospital से जवाब नहीं आता. So if the hospital doesn't respond, how can the insurance company actually reply on or decision on something? So a lot of times, I won't say that every time the insurance company is the saint. That's also true, but in a lot of cases, actually, if the insurance company doesn't get a response, how are they supposed to make a decision? So kahin na kahin, see, again, if you understand the macro picture, uh, actually hospitals and insurance companies also keep on blaming each other. हॉस्पिटल बोलता है इंश्योरेंस कंपनी पैसे नहीं देती, टाइमली पैसे नहीं देती. इंश्योरेंस कंपनी बोलती है दैट हॉस्पिटल ओवरचार्ज. अब बिकॉज दे आर इन अ पेयर पेई रिलेशनशिप, देयर इज अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट बाय डिफॉल्ट. So by default, by design, there is a bit of a conflict between the two parties, which is where somewhere unfortunately at times customers do suffer as well. That is the reality. I won't deny it. Health insurance claims is not a rosy picture at all. It's an extremely, I would say, grueling process. It's there, and that's where as I said, that's where people like any intermediary. I won't say just Policy Bazaar, but it is the responsibility of any agent or anybody who sells a policy to help the customer in their claim. That is what we get paid as commissions for. If somebody is not doing it, they are not doing the right thing, and they don't deserve that commission to be paid to them.
understood, understood. So hopefully we all find better agents, and for those who don't, there is always Policy Bazaar to go to. I think, Amit, this has been really, really helpful to me to figure out what to buy and what to do in case of a policy renewal or a claim. I will probably bother you again sometime, and we will focus on life insurance and term insurance that day. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I also know that the audience wouldn't last that long. So hope to do this again, Amit. Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming to the show, and thank you, audience, for sticking around with us for such a long conversation. I, frankly speaking, didn't expect that health insurance would get into so much details, but that's what happens when you get experts on the show. So thank you everyone. Thanks for listening. Hope I have earned the privilege of your time.